All right, we're about to go over our packet from week 1. So let me swap the camera over and you're going to see that I have exactly the same thing you do. If you have questions, type it in the chat and I will answer them as quick as I can. I've got you muted right now just so that I can kind of go through this. I've got several that I want to go over before we run out of time because I've got another one to do at 11. So this is on proportional relationships. We've talked quite a bit about these. If you'll think back to probably September, October, we did a good bit of this. So we're going to read number 1. It says, Josie is making pizza dough. Complete the double number line by filling the missing values. Then write an equation that models the relationship between the total cups of flour, C, and the number of batches, N. Show your work. So what is the question asking? The question is asking to write an equation. And it tells us that the total cups of flour is C, and the number of batches is N. So it gives us these variables to look at. Hang on just a second. I'm trying to swap some stuff around. There we go. All right, so we already see where they've given us a couple of things here at the top, right? What's the first thing we do? We cheat. We're going to change these fractions into decimals. So you have a handy dandy calculator somewhere. I lost mine. In your calculator, you're going to say 3 divided by 4, and that's going to give us 0.75. Yeah, I know your calculators are at school. I'm trying to figure out a way to get them to you because I know those are the ones that y'all are used to using. On your Chromebooks, you may have a calculator. If not, I'll send you a link to a calculator similar to the ones that you're used to using. So if 0.75 is our first interval here, we can look and see 3 and 3.4, 3 3/4. If we subtract those, we're going to find that that's also our interval. So to figure out this first answer right here, in my calculator, I'm going to say 0.75 plus 0.75. And that's going to give me 1.5. So how am I going to figure out the next one? What am I going to add to 1.5? We've already figured out our constant, which is 0.75. So I'm going to say 1.5 plus 0.75. And in my calculator, that's going to give me 2.25. See if I can make that just a tiny bit clearer. There we go. All right, is that a little better? All right, when we look at the bottom, our N for batches, our interval is going to be pretty easy to figure out. We've got 0, 1, 2. What comes next? You know what comes next. What's up, EJ?
I can't really set 1.5.
Yeah, this is 1.5.
Yeah.
1.5, and then 2.25. And we got that by converting our fractions into decimals. All right, our intervals down here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. kind of easy. We know that our intervals are set at 1. So what is our equation? How are we going to figure this out? I know that to figure out the number of cups that I need, what am I going to multiply my batches by? To know that I need 2.25 cups, I'm going to have to say my number of batches times my constant. So my equation is going to be 0.75 times n. It's going to be this constant times this number. So let's just try it out. If I say 2 times 0.75, I should get 1.5. So I know that this equation is correct according to my chart up here. All right, we good on that one? The other one I want to do, I want to look at number 2. I'll move my sheet down just a little bit. Number 2 says, Lily bought each of her friends a pair of colorful socks that cost $5.50. Complete the table to show how much Lily paid to buy different numbers of socks. Then write an equation that shows the total cost, C, for P pairs of socks. So it's telling me cost is C, P is pairs of socks. And my question, remember I've told you guys 1,000 times, what is the question asking? Write an equation. What you got, Gage? Which question? Say something. I see your lips moving, but I can't hear you still. All right, so if we keep going, we are filling in this table to help us write an equation. The problem gives me some really good information. It says that a pair of colorful socks costs $5.50. So that's telling me how much is one pair of socks? One pair of socks is $5 and right, exactly, $5.50. So 2 pair of socks is going to be $11. What did we do to get that? We multiplied 2 times 550, or we said 550 plus 550 to give me 11. So how am I going to figure out what 3 pairs of socks? I can take $11 and add $5.50, and that should give me $16.50. Oh, we got to have those dollar signs because we're not talking about monkeys, right? We're talking about money. So the next one, for 4 pair of socks, I can say $16.50 plus $5.50. That's going to give me $22. And for 5 pair of socks, I can say $22 again plus $5.50. It's going to give me $27.50. Do you see how we got this so far? Does this kind of seem familiar to you, like we've done this before? All right. We can keep adding and adding forever, but what if I want to skip ahead and figure out how much 10 pairs of socks are? What am I going to do? I can look at seeing the cost of my socks. I'm going to have to multiply the cost, which I know for one is $5.50, times the number of pairs. So I can say 10 times $5.50. And if I put that in my calculator, I'm going to get $55. So I don't have to go and carry this all the way out, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and do all the adding up here. I can skip to it and I can multiply because I have this equation. Does that make sense? We good? You good, EJ? All right. The next one I want to look at is on the next page. Let's look at number 1 on the next page. I'm not going to go over all of these with you because I feel like you should be good with this. Let's look at number 1. This is number 1 on your second page. All right, these are looking at graphs. Do you remember when we started looking at graphs, there were 2 things that we talked about. When we looked at a graph, do you remember there were 2 main rules to tell us something was proportional? The first was it had to be what kind of line? EJ's doing this with his pencil, so I know he knows. It has to be a straight line. Where does it have to start? What number does it have to start at? It has to start at 0, right? And the only other thing that we didn't talk a whole lot about, but I think you understand, is that our line this way and our line this way, which is our X and our Y, those intervals have to be consistent or else it's not going to make sense. Okay, so it has to be a straight line. It has to start at 0, and then my X and my Y, they have to be consistent intervals. Okay, remember that? We talked good bit about those. So let's swap back over to our worksheet. Number 1 says the cost of 1 apple and the cost of 3 apples. What is it? So I'm going to look at my chart. My number of apples is here, and my question is asking me for 1 apple. So I'm going to go up here and follow it across. Well, it's not quite on 0.5. It's not quite on 1. I'm going to have to do a little bit of guesswork here. To me, it looks like it might be halfway between. So I'm going to say the cost of 1 apple is, I'm going to say 75 cents. It's a pretty good estimate, right? I mean, it's between 50 cents and $1. My next one is asking me for the cost of 3 apples. So I'm going to come over here to 3, and I'm going to follow it up, and I'm going to follow it over. So I've got to do some guesswork again because it's not quite 2. It's a little more than 2, but it's not quite 2.5. So I'm going to say the cost of 3 apples is, I don't know, what do you think? 2.25 sound good? It's between, so that's pretty close. How do you know? That's a good question. How do you know? Oh, Gage, I wish I could hear you because I see you talking away. I would say I know because the X corresponds to the y. And when I say corresponds, this is my x right here. This is my y. So when I'm looking at my x value and I follow it up, I'm going across y. All right, we're going to move down to question number 2 of this one. What does the point 0, 0 represent in this context? Well, if I'm looking at the number of apples, 0 is telling me, how many apples did I buy? None. I ain't got none, right? How much am I going to pay for no apples? Nothing. I'm not going to pay for something I don't have. So that tells me I pay $0 for 0 apples, right? So just looking at the points on this graph, is this graph proportional? Does this one make a straight line? Does it start at 0? And are our intervals consistent? Yes, absolutely it is. What does the point 2 for my x and 1.5 for my y represent in this context? Well, x is my number of apples, and y is my price. So, do you remember when we tried to figure out constants? Do you remember when we were looking to figure out what is the constant in our graph, our equation? We said k equals y over x. I think we did those until we were sick of them. K equals y over x. So on this particular one, we can be really lazy and we can go through and we can look and see my constant equals y over x. Do you remember when we were doing these? I told you, don't make things harder for yourself than they have to be. Find one where everything meets, and that's going to be this one right here. My y is 1.5. My x is 2. So with our handy dandy calculator, if we were to say 1.5 divided by 2, we should get 0.75. So 0.75 would be my constant in this case. Everything is going to move up by 0.75. That's the reason we got 1 is 0.75. Make sense? Kind of starting to sound a little familiar? With this, you should be able to answer 4 and 5 on this page. Number 4 is asking how much does she pay or get paid for each hour of tutoring? Each tells me k equals y over x. I need a 1 on the bottom. I think you can do that one. Write an equation that shows the relationship. I want you to figure out y equals whatever my constant is times my x. So this is the one that you have to figure out. What is the k? And that's going to be your equation. You can do that. You know how to do this. Do you have any questions so far? Does this kind of seem familiar? Kinda, okay. Let's look at your next page here. Is going to be exactly like the second page. You should be able to do this one. This page is exactly like the one we just did. You can do this one. All right, let's take a look at this one. This one's going to be OMG ridiculously easy. I know you know how to do this one. Directions say, circle all the problems that do not represent a proportional relationship. For the problems that are circled, explain why the graphs do not represent a proportional relationship. So let's dive right in. Let's look at number one. Number one, there were three things that make a graph proportional. One was a straight line. Two, what was number two? Where does it start? Where does a proportional graph start? It starts at 0. And three, intervals on y and x must be equal. That was our three rules. Number one, is number one a straight line? Number one a straight line? Yep, sure is. Number one, does it start at 0? Does this right here start at 0? No, it doesn't. So number one, nope, nope. And the reason it is not proportional, it does not start at 0. Bam! Mic drop. We're done, right? That one was pretty stinking easy. Marker drop. How many times did I do that and have to go chase it across the floor because it went rolling? Yeah. All right. Number two. Is number two proportional? Number two. Is it a straight line? Yep, sure is. Number two. Does it start at 0? Yep, sure does. Number three. Are my intervals consistent? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, those are consistent. 5, 10, 15. Yep, those are consistent. So, yep. Don't have to circle it. Don't have to do anything to it. We're good. I want to give you a second, and in the chat box, type for me, can you find one on this page that is not proportional? Type it in the chat box for me. Can you find one on this page that is not proportional? All right, Gage says number 4. You know what, Gage? I completely agree. Number 4 is not proportional. Why is it not proportional? Why is number 4 not proportional? Well, it is a straight line. Got that part. But look right here. This is going to be the same as number 1. It does not start at 0. Easy enough. EJ said number 4 as well. EJ, can you find another one on this page that is also not proportional? Looking for one that is not proportional. Number 5. Perfect. Number 5 is not proportional because it is not a straight line. I think you got it. Y'all are so good. All right. I'm not going to keep you any longer. I just wanted to go over a few of these with you just to make sure that you had an idea, that you remembered how to do this. Because I know when we started looking at k equals y over x that we started getting kind of confused, and that was a big deal. The last sheet is 8 word problems. I know those are a little more difficult. I'm not going to do those with you right now. I am going to make a video, and I'm going to post that video Monday going over those 8 word problems. I miss you guys. Like,